So that's a basic movement. I think I'm also going to use this low pass that I like to use. I have one that's a low pass. When I move this knob, it goes up. I have one that's a high pass above that. When I move that, it goes up. I have another one that I think is, here's a band pass that only exists in the low end. So it'll stop existing when it hits a certain lowness or highness. I think it's like 200 hertz. And then I have one that is a band pass in the middle of where the earlier low pass and the earlier high pass ended. So I have that middle bit. And that means if I put something before here, I have an effect that I can contain within a part of the spectrum. But I have the high pass so that it only increases in volume as I move that up. So basically it's a complicated low pass with a ping pong delay in the very top end of the low pass, if that makes sense. So. I want to tune this. Or just make it sound cool. And turn down the feedback. Just target it on the part I want specifically. Cool. And I'm going to post this audio effect rack in the description because it's a method of applying effects. If I thought that people being able to apply effects in a specific way would make them sound exactly the same as me, probably wouldn't post it, but it's just a method of applying effects, and I think it's fun to mess with. So I'm going to give it to you guys, and you can use it for whatever you want. I'll show the automation. And I'll also give you guys the frequency splitting one. Want that to go higher. There we go. You can see that keeps the sub really consistent. Cool. So now I'm going to resample that down because after I do, the audio clip's going to look completely different. And now we can just select the part that we want and really accurately boost the volume because we can actually see where it's going to hit. And I bet this looks just awful in span. Yeah, this whole area up here, and the whole thing's bollocks basically. But the main problem with it that we're going to address right now is that the low end is way too loud. So that already sounds better. The high end is also too loud. Cool. So now we got it all more sort of in the ballpark. And now it's probably the last phase, which is just a final coloration reduction. So we have this set of peaks right here at 2020. Boom. And we have this set at 508 or 5080, 5.08 kilohertz, same basic difference. We have that one up at 10K. just need to make the mids louder. I'm going to do that with my favorite twin tube distortion that I've got, which is from SPL. So that's not just going to make it louder, it's also going to add some good harmonics. But not that much saturation. There we go. And then we'll just... And you can see when I boost the mids, it brings out this peak right here that I didn't know was there before. Sorry, I keep trying to talk over the basses. So now we can see all this schneise is just being too muchy. And that's at 1.84 kilohertz. And we're gonna, I see I already dipped that, but. See, now we can see that the low end is really bottom heavy, or the mid-range is really bottom heavy. Like the low end of the mids is being extended a lot, so you can put an overdrive in the high end of the mids to bring out some of that nice high end. And then we're gonna take an EQ within the mids and just put it after the thing so I don't get as confused. Here we go. High end is just not having a good time right now. That's another thing I find helps, is to high end, or to EQ each individual section by itself. So I can see now that my high end is just way top heavy. Like that much top heavy. I might even need to overdrive the low end of my high end. That's probably from the ping pong. I'll just even it out a bit. Now it's way too quiet, which means I can come back over here and in here. And there's one final peak at 793. So it's just a matter of decreasing coloration. So now I've got this signal that is starting to become flat across the entire spectrum. And the advantage of that is when you load it into a sampler of sorts, like Contact or Ableton Sampler or something like that, that you can then really easily use it at any tone. There's no resonances that are going to sound weird at one tone and good in another. And then, cool. So that's about good. The low end is a little louder than everything else, but not by too much, and that's kind of what we want with a bass. So now we've gone from our initial massive patch, which was something like this, to something more like this. And we can even make that louder. I like reading these because it shows you where it's actually hitting at, so you can boost it by the right amount. Like that. Obviously that's not perfect, but I think it sounds pretty good. And then, yeah, I guess that's it for part one of this resampling thing. Next week, what I'm going to be doing is loading this sound specifically from this. Let me resample it so you can see what it looks like. Oh, it's peaking right there. Silly frequencies. I'm not going to sweat it. Sometimes clipping sounds cool. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. Here is the sound that I'm going to be using, and just so I can prove to you all that I'm going to be using it, I'm going to take it from my Finder. There's a sneak peek of Roger Wilco and I doing a collab, and I'm going to rename it Tutorial Bass. I'm putting it right there. And I will see you all next week. Looking like I'm going to be doing these every Thursday. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. I will be reading those and answering those all day. Cheers.